This is actually a very simple class. Basically, what I want you to do is to further develop the model. Okay, so here we go. Superficial details. So superficial actually means to the outside, right? So if someone's superficial, it actually means that they care about the outer stuff and not the inner stuff, okay? And so when you say something is superficial, what you mean is that it's towards the outside, okay? So that would be kind of the opposite, talking anatomically, the opposite of the skeletal system, which is obviously sort of at the core to a large extent. And then on top of that would be the muscular system. And then beyond that would be adipose and epithelial tissue. I mean, obviously there's other tissues as well, neurological and glandular and endocrine and all this other business. But as far as we're concerned, for the purposes of defining the form, those are the main ones. You have the skeletal, muscular, and then adipose and epithelial. Okay, so adipose is fat. So let's just throw that out there so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. It just means that's the technical term. And epithelial is skin. Okay, so that's what those two things mean. So to a large extent, really what you're looking for and what you want to think about is if you the first thing you need to think about whenever you're designing or modeling or sculpting or doing anything with any sort of figure, human figure or otherwise, first thing is to think of that skeletal structure, because that is the thing that supports everything. That's a supportive structure. And you want to find where that is, and that's why you look for those bony landmarks, and you try to find like specific places so you can determine what that solid, definitive structure looks like. It's a very solid thing, and it's, like I said, it's structural. It's just like if you have a building, you know what I mean, when you have the I-beams and all the things that are built into it, it informs everything else. Okay, so it's the same thing. So like that's crucial. Muscle on top of that is, you know, if you look at a skeleton, it's very firm, solid, strong. Muscle is less so, but it's also decently strong. You know, it's solid, it's meaty. It may sound whatever, but it has structure. So that's the next thing that goes on top of it, and it helps make the flow from one bone to another bone. You know, if you look at a skeleton, it's not organic in and of itself. I mean, there's organic aspects to it, but the interdependency of it is not as strong as it could be without having that muscular system laying over it and interconnecting each one of those. Every muscle, well, this is not exclusively true, but for the most part, every skeletal muscle, we should say, every muscle that you move, is connected from one bone to another. In essence, its whole point is to connect two bones, two separate bones. And so what that means is that, for one, that needs to happen, because otherwise, what's the point? If you have a muscle that goes to the same bone that's attached to, then it's not actually doing anything. It needs to connect another bone to push it, to pull it. But it also means, as far as our form, is that it means that it makes the form, it makes the shape flow in from one to another, and it makes it organic, okay? So anyway, so the one is very hard, and then muscle is less so. And then when you go from there is the adipose and epithelial. Those are looser. And so basically we'll notice that those are very privy to gravity and stress. The others are as well, but less so. So what that means is that what you'll see is that they'll be weighted. If someone sits, you'll see that the fat will bellow around. It'll be pushed. It'll be squashed. If you see someone twist and turn, you'll see that the skin will actually act like cloth or fabric of any sort. Really, it'll have like rubber, a very thin kind of surface material. And that's kind of the best way to look at it. What I do want to stress is that, so let me just zoom in here. Okay, let's try this again. Is that if you look at this, one common misconception that people have, like let's say if someone that's slightly larger than another person, right? They just are a bigger person. They're not going to be round and plump. Not going to be round. They're not round. They're more teardrop shaped. Every form that you're going to see is going to have a teardrop form, because basically what happens is that tries to slide off. And honestly, it gives it more weight. It gives it more form. And it doesn't have to be a large person. Even someone who you would consider to be thin would still have it. So you look at here, the buttocks, or the buttocks, or the butt. It's still going to have that kind of teardrop form. It's not going to be round. A round object has no gravity stressed upon it. It's going to have this kind of bell-shaped, ness to it. And so that's basically where a lot of that gravity, that weight, that feeling comes from. But at the same time, obviously, you're going to have these stretches, wherever you see that a part is being pushed against or pulled across, you're going to see that where there's stress, the lines come off of, wherever something is being pushed beyond, where the default is, the rest position, there's going to start to create creases and things. One of the things that I realized, and this was like just a personal experience, when I was, my brother was a neuroscience major. Can't remember. He's a psychology professor now, but it was within a subsect of psychology. And he had me once he wanted to do ovarectomies, which basically means he was removing the ovaries of these mice. And, you look at mice and they're cute and they're whatever. But it was interesting because I was the anesthesiologist in a sense. I was sticking the stuff on there and making sure they didn't die, but also making them pass out. And then he would take out all the giblets. And, you look at a mouse, it's like it's cute and whatever, and it's kind of round. But as soon as they went limp, they looked like a water balloon. They were just totally incapacitated and bulbous and jiggly. So I guess what I'm getting at is that without muscle and without bone, or when the bone and the muscle is more removed, the skin, the epithelial tissue, the superficial things, the things that are on the outside, that are more towards the surface, that are more privy to being exposed to gravity or stress, will react as such. They'll react in the ways you want. And so try to think of things that would react that way. Water balloons, gelatin, as far as like rubber or cloth or those sort of things. They have a certain way that they will bellow. They're not going to be round. All right. So your next assignment basically is to take what you already have done, which it should be the entire model really at this point, and more or less just polish it. I just want you to refine it. I want you to make it look nicer. I want you to take these things into consideration. I want you to add all the necessary details in order to make this look like a realistic human. So if there's clothing or those sort of things, add those details as well. So if you have any questions or what have you, email me or whatever. All right. So good luck.